Can you imagine thinking there are actually things in this world that prove a flat earth? Then can you imagine making a video about those things and actually thinking people will take you seriously? Because that's exactly what one flat earther did as he talks us through 10 technologies that apparently prove a flat earth. Dear oh dear. Hello all and welcome along to another video with me, Simon Dan. Thanks very much for joining me. Right, on with today's video then, which comes from Dubay. And he's recently come to the conclusion that a variety of technologies apparently prove a flat earth. We're going to look at the first 5 today and the second 5 on Thursday. This should be very interesting. Away we go.
1. The Antikythera mechanism, astrolabes, and planispheres. One of the most ancient devices that confirms a stationary geocentric flat Earth is known as the Antikythera mechanism. Discovered in Greece over 100 years ago and dating back to the 2nd century BC, this long-lost technology is now the oldest known analog computer in history. Composed of 37 gears, with teeth ranging from tiny to microscopic, the Antikythera mechanism is a perfect replica of the heavens, showing the exact positions, movements, and alignments of all the celestial bodies.
The Antikythera mechanism is an ancient gear-driven calculator for predicting the sun, the moon, eclipses, and some planets. It shows how the sky appears from Earth, not the shape or the motion of Earth itself. It's an observational tool, not a cosmological proof. It encodes cycles and appearances. Saying that they confirm a flat Earth is like saying that a wall calendar proves we orbit the sun.
There are gears and indicators for the sun, moon, and each of the planets, all set against the fixed stars, allowing the user to tell the date, time, latitude, predict eclipses, see the moon's phase, and precise position of the sun, moon, planets, and stars for any date in history. This incredible astronomical computer, which can perfectly predict the movements of every object in the cosmos, shockingly has no gear for the Earth itself.
Of course there's no gear for Earth. The whole device is built to show you what the sky looks like from Earth itself. You don't need a gear for the ground you're standing on, Eric.
That is because the Antikythera mechanism, as well as all astrolabes and planispheres, are geocentric devices based on a fixed, stationary, central Earth plane over which the sun, moon, stars, and planets revolve. The Earth is not treated as a planet in motion around the sun, as claimed by the heliocentric model, but rather the stage over which the heavenly play is performed. If Earth was really the third planet from the sun, and undergoing all the motions attributed to it by heliocentric dogma, the precision and predictions of these geocentric instruments would be impossible.
These instruments don't model the Earth's motion because you don't need to. You're already standing on it. Their accuracy doesn't refute heliocentrism. In fact, their predictions depend on orbital cycles developed from a heliocentric understanding. Astrolabes and planispheres are stereographical projections of the sky. They only work because the heavens behave as if wrapped around a spherical ball. That's a nonsense first one. Let's move on to technology 2, shall we?
2. Theodolites. Theodolites are precision instruments used for accurately measuring horizontal and vertical angles between points, generally used in land surveying, construction, and engineering. They consist of a movable telescope mounted on 2 perpendicular axes with graduated circles to provide angular readouts. These indicate the exact orientation of the crosshairs and are used to trace the first point sighted through the telescope to subsequent sightings of other points from the same theodolite position. This allows them to measure angles with accuracies down to microradians or seconds of arc.
A single theodolite reading only gives you an angle. To turn those angles into elevations or distances, surveyors use established geodetic models of a curved Earth. That's why every single mapping agency like the USGS or the Ordnance Survey here in the UK publishes geode corrections alongside the raw data. If Earth were flat, those corrections would be unnecessary, yet they're routine and well documented.
When theodolites are set up at different points along straight canals or lakes, they have repeatedly been shown to be perfectly level, with crosshairs aligning across to the opposite shoreline. If Earth was really a globe 3,959 miles in radius, as claimed, there is an easily measurable amount of curvature, increasing exponentially every mile, that should and would be detected by such precision instruments.
What you're really measuring with a theodolite across a canal is the apparent line of sight through a thick layer of turbulent air. Over water especially, refraction bends light downwards and make distant objects look higher than they actually are. That's why survey manuals warn about line of sight errors, especially across water, and recommend running loops in opposite directions to cancel them out. But you didn't mention that bit, did you, Eric?
In reality, no such curvature is found by theodolites. One of the most famous flat earthers in history, Dr. Samuel Rowbotham, author of Earth Not a Globe, performed several experiments positioning theodolites at equal heights aimed at each other successively, proving the Bedford Canal to be perfectly level over 6 miles, where there should exist over 24 feet of curvature on a globe of given proportions.
You don't even know your flat earth history, Eric. Now, I have studied flat earth history deeply, and I can tell you now, Rowbotham did not use a theodolite during his Bedford level experiment. He used a telescope and a flag, a handheld telescope, by the way. Now, Alfred Russel Wallace did use a theodolite at the Bedford Canal 20 years later, and guess what he proved? Earth is curved. And funny how you don't mention the absolute fail from Rowbotham at Plymouth Hoe, where he was pointing out expected hidden objects from 200 feet above sea level without even realising it. Amazing how they were failing back then as hard as they do today. Another nonsense one. Let's move on to number 3.
3. Line lasers and laser levels. Line lasers and laser levels are devices which produce straight, narrow beams of light that will not droop down like a rope or other physical means of measuring. Using boards, mirrors, or other target objects, the laser's height can easily be checked at successive points along a given stretch of land or water in order to determine whether the globe's claimed amount of downward curvature exists or not. Tests have been done, for example, across Lake Balaton in Hungary and Kootenay Lake in British Columbia, confirming the water's surface to be perfectly flat.
A visible laser beam will follow a straight line, but your line of sight through air doesn't. Over water you get temperature gradients which bend light up or down. That's why surveyors rarely run optical lines of sight just above a lake. When the laser level tests are done under controlled conditions, with beams measuring both ways and accounting for refraction, they show exactly the drop predicted by a curved Earth. That's how large-scale tunnel projects or bridges are aligned, with lasers plus curvature corrections. The lake proofs that you show us from videos online show really low height beams just skimming the water, which is the worst possible setup for an honest measurement. You're testing the air more than you are the Earth.
At Lake Balaton, a green laser was used at night, aiming straight across an expanse of 7 miles, just above the surface of the lake, and hit boards recorded by observers with cameras placed at equal heights on the opposite shore. If Earth was really a globe of given proportions, there should be 32 feet of downward curvature at that distance.
A 7-mile shot with a green laser set up a few inches above a lake is a textbook example of refraction. It's not a clean geometry test at all. Surveyors have known for over a century that low height night measurements across water produce spurious, flat results. This proves nothing. Number 4, please.
4. Magnetic compasses. Magnetic compasses are navigation tools with directional markings that use a freely spinning, magnetized needle that aligns with Earth's magnetic field and points to magnetic north. A bit of critical thought reveals these to be impossible and nonsensical instruments for use on a globe Earth. They simultaneously point north and south over a flat surface and must be held flat and still to work properly, yet claim to be pinpointing two constantly moving geomagnetic poles at opposite ends of a spinning sphere originating from a hypothetical molten metal core.
Magnetic compasses don't prove anything about the Earth's shape. They simply align with a local magnetic field, which is generated by currents in the outer core, yes. On a sphere, that field runs in loops from one hemisphere to the other. A compass needle locally lines up with that field line. There's nothing impossible about that. Far from contradicting a globe, the way that compasses behave, declination, inclination, the wandering of the poles, is one of the pieces of evidence for a dynamic spherical Earth. One that's got a geodynamo, not a fixed flat plane.
If compass needles were really drawn to the north pole of a globe, the opposing south needle would actually be pointing up and off into outer space.
That's not how magnetic fields work, Eric. The south end of a compass needle isn't trying to find a point in space. It's aligning with the local field line, as I mentioned, at your location. Those lines curve smoothly from one hemisphere to the other, so both ends of the needle stay horizontal when it's balanced. This is one of the most ridiculous things I've ever heard you say, Eric, and that's saying something. My oh my.
Likewise, observers holding a compass in Antarctica would be at the bottom of a ball. So to show north, the needle would have to point down at their feet.
Look, it's clear that Eric knows nothing of magnetic field lines, or how compasses properly work, so this one is a non-starter, I'm afraid. Let's move on to technology 5 then, instead.
5. Sundials and moondials. Sundials and moondials are devices which tell the time of day or night by casting shadows created from sun and moonlight onto numbered dials. The basic technology consists of a dial and some kind of rod or marker called a gnomon, which casts its shadow onto the dial. As the sun or moon move through the sky, the shadow aligns with demarcations marked on the dial to indicate the time. Globe believers claim that all sun and moon dials must be aligned parallel to the axis of Earth's rotation in order to remain accurate throughout the year. All this really means is that sun and moon dials must be correctly orientated to east and west, which has nothing to do with Earth being a rotating globe.
Sundials work because the sun appears to move across the sky at a steady angular rate. To make them accurate everywhere and during all seasons, you don't just tilt them east-west. You tilt the gnomon so it's parallel to Earth's axis. The angle of that tilt equals your latitude, which only makes sense on a sphere with a tilted rotational axis. On a flat plane, you'd expect the same setting everywhere.
In fact, there are huge, intricate, ancient stone sun and moon dials as old as 1500 BC, all over the world, which still tell the time now, down to the minute, as perfectly as the day they were made.
Ancient sundials can still tell the time today because the Earth's rotation rate and its axial tilt haven't changed enough to throw them out. Their continued accuracy isn't a mystery, and it's not evidence for flat Earth either. It's evidence that the geometry of the Sun-Earth system is very stable over millennia. In fact, those ancient dials were built using local latitude. If you move one to a different latitude, it stops working properly. Unless, of course, you re-tilt the gnomon. That alone shows they're designed for a spherical Earth with a tilted axis.
If the Earth, Sun, and Moon were truly subject to the number of contradictory revolving, rotating, wobbling, and spiraling motions claimed by modern astronomy, it would be impossible for these monuments to so accurately tell time without constant adjustment.
All of Earth's wobbling, revolving and spiraling motions are either extremely slow or extremely regular. A sundial only cares about the apparent daily motion of the sun across the sky relative to your location. Earth's spin rate is so stable that we measure leap seconds in milliseconds per year, and the axial precession takes 26,000 years to make one wobble. These effects are far too small to ruin a stone sundial built a few thousand years ago. And I think this is where we're going to take a break on this one, and as I mentioned, we're going to look at the final 5 technologies that Eric thinks proves a flat Earth on Thursday. Please do let me know in the comments below what you thought of this one, but for now I'm going to say we're all done and dusted for another one. Thanks so much for watching today. As ever, it's appreciated. If you enjoyed it, please do subscribe to the channel, and if you really liked it, a big thumbs up would be appreciated too. I've been Simon Dan, have yourselves a great day, and I'll see you tomorrow for a Tinfoil Tuesday where Kent Hovind is answering atheist questions again. Oh dear. See you then.